is your plans for your life after retirement?
Well, you know, someone like me, I like to say that I never retire. For me, it's just a change of vocation, perhaps a little adjusting of the pace of life. So what I'm doing now is I have a farm which started out as a hobby, but I'm trying to develop into a commercial enterprise, rearing cattle, and I have some limited crops. I do a lot of researching and writing, and then increasingly I'm involved in the work of the church I attend. So those three things, not necessarily in the order in which I've listed them, but that's what I spend most of my time doing now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm one of those persons who are looking forward to a change of pace and a change of vocation. And so when I left politics, I made an easy adjustment because I wasn't someone who saw myself as a sitting member of parliament it is now for life. I wanted to do other things. And I'm an intellectual, and I would like to leave a community which is uplifted, informed, and edified by my writings, my beliefs, and my speeches.
Well, I do believe that retired people who have other things doing have a lot of information and knowledge of what happened before. And I think from time to time we should have discussion, have conversation, or give the microphone to people like yourself so you can educate us and bring us up to speed and sort of teach us a few things. And I've really enjoyed reading your books. Right. So to move on to our next topic, can you give me some idea how you feel about the formation of the last government? We know there was some controversy around it, but what's your feelings on that?
Well, obviously, the Caymanian people have spoken and they wanted change. Now, I have to say that in the path I have chosen, I have deliberately kept myself away from too direct a contact with any political agglomeration, because I want to remain in a position where I can call things as I see it without fear of having to temper my ideas because I'm aligned or allied to. So as far as the present political director is concerned, you know, I'm excited as much as my position of neutrality will allow me to be, because I like what the Premier is stating. I like his objective of trying to create a society which is at once more equal, to trying to try of his idea of trying to alter the social construct, or what I call developing a different social contract, because it is necessary for us to realize that there is not only a creeping now, it's gaping economic inequality in Caymanian society. And unless it is addressed, it's going to come back to haunt us down the line.
In his recent presentation at Chamber of Commerce luncheon, he made a statement which I listened to very carefully. He said, things must change. That there's some things that were going okay, but a lot of things that were not going okay. And so it's clear that he wants to change a number of things that may impact quite a few people, or maybe a few companies or organizations. Do you think he'll have a difficult chance?
Oh, he definitely will. Because for one thing, you know, he's up against the merchant establishment. He's up against the status quo, which includes the Chamber of Commerce. So that is why I say that his political directorate deserves support, deserves empathy, and deserves understanding. And I might add this, Ralph. The public at large, John Public, the silent majority, is waiting with bated breath. He, right now, is their hope. He's the person they're looking for to bring that kind of economic and political salvation which was promised to them for so many years by so many political directorates, but never panned out. And this may be their last best hope. He may be their last best hope. The pact may be their last best hope. That is why I am giving them my support.
We will keep our eyes on them as well, because I think that as a media house, we need to give everyone an opportunity to see what's happening and to hear from the government.
Oh, definitely, you have a role to play. I mean, the press is the fourth estate, and that has a powerful role. You can temper, you can even influence the agenda, and certainly it's your responsibility to call out where there needs to be calling out, whether that is in a negative sense or a positive sense. So without organizations like yours, the country will fall flat.
And we definitely intend to have our say and to make it known and to remain independent and to contribute to the development of the Cayman Islands. But back to you. Vaccinations. There's consideration to have vaccinations mandatory for work permit holders, and in a way of trying to improve the numbers of people on vaccines. What's your views on vaccination and as a step towards the opening?
That's an interesting question. You know, I have followed this whole development of COVID-19 from its inception in Wuhan right down to the present. And I think that it would be seriously remiss of us not to promote vaccinations. Vaccinations are the key to a healthy population, to containing this virus. And certainly when it comes to people on work permits, it should be mandatory. Without proper vaccination and certification, they should not be allowed into this jurisdiction. Similarly, I encourage Caymanians across the board to become vaccinated. And quite frankly, Ralph, I'm alarmed at the number of people who I think should be responsible promoting conspiracy theories against vaccinating people. There is nothing to be had from that. We should follow the science, and the science bears out that persons who are vaccinated fare a much better chance with COVID-19 than those who are not, even though they may believe they're in good health and have youth on their side.
And just looking at the news yesterday in the US, 99.5% of those who have passed did not have vaccinations. And so, you know, that strengthens the point that you're making.
Yeah.
Regards to the economy, of course, we're saying that vaccinations are important for the reopening of the borders, which is supposed to help us get the economy going again.
Yes.
The economy is in a state at this point, from my views, and so therefore we need something to kickstart the economy.
Yes.
I'm concerned that we are expecting that the border opening will make it happen. And my feelings is that it will take some time to maintain or get the momentum to really get our economy going again. What's your thoughts on that?
I share your view. I concur that those people who believe that the border opening is going to result in an immediate economic boom are mistaken. They're misunderstanding the function of economy and society. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some adjustment, and perhaps we had be better prepared for the longer term rather than the shorter term, because what happens in the Cayman Islands is to a large extent dependent upon what happens in the outside world, what happens in New York, in London, in Paris, in Frankfurt, and all these places. And these places are struggling. And so it goes to show that we are going to struggle through. I don't know where some businessmen and merchants get this idea that if we say open tomorrow, it is automatic, like from the Arabian tales, that when the genie is out of the bottle, yes, and we are going to suddenly prosper. No. It doesn't go like that. And when we do open, Ralph, what I'm concerned about is, are we in a position where we can drag along those persons who were left behind, yes, before the COVID-19? Because, you know, out of this COVID-19 exercise, we should, in the Cayman Islands, we should learn some important lessons that too many of our people were dropping through the cracks. Now this has given us a chance, the pandemic has given us a chance to reset the button, to reset the game and to be more inclusive. I was reading the other day where some people in the hospitality industry say we're going to need 5,000 people. But yet, I haven't seen any accelerated training program for Caymanians. I don't see any scientific study that says, well, we have 2,000 Caymanians ready to be trained, and we are training them, so we will have to depend upon 2,000 more imported work permit holders or imported laborers. But there's no, and so what I fear is that all of a sudden we're going to open up and those 5,000 positions are going to go to work permit holders, and we're just at the point where we were prior to the pandemic, and that would spell disaster.
Yes. And regarding training and employment, do you think we've missed the ball? It's been over a year and a half now, and that we've been closed down. And one of the suggestions was that we should start focusing on educating and training and giving our Caymanians opportunities to learn while we were shut down, so that when we reopen, they will be at least a level above where they were, so they could move into those jobs. And that was one of the thoughts that work would have been doing. But do you think that the ball was dropped and that there could have been more done to help our people?
Absolutely, absolutely. And even during the lockdown, with technology the way it is now, people could have been learning from home. Just like a lot of people were working from home, they could have been learning from home. Computerization, computer programs, there could have been special programs designed for that. And so you're right, and that's my fear. We are no further ahead now than we were before we went into the lockdown. And so that's why I worry about who are these 5,000 people going to be, because it strikes me that they're not going to be Caymanians. We have not taken opportunity to train and prepare our people the way we should. And yet, every time I look into the newspaper columns and some of the online media, I see Caymanians are being put down because they say they're lazy, they're non-industrious, they have no incentive. So instead of lighting a candle, we consume our time by cursing the darkness. And we curse those people like myself who come and say, hey, we need to do things differently. This is what we should think about doing.
And that topic we can go into so many different angles. And in the next interview with you in the future, I would like to talk about education some more. But I want to touch on one more topic that is dear to my heart and really touches home. And it's about, is there racism in the Cayman Islands? And the other part of that is there a divide, if any, between local and expat workforce? And I would like to get your thoughts on those two.
Well, you have raised a question which is emotional, emotive to me, emotional. And you have touched on a raw nerve to many people. Yes, there is racism in the Cayman Islands. We could not escape it for many reasons. We came out of a culture of slavery, number one. Number two is that we are a colonial society. And everybody who knows about colonialism knows that colonialism was based on certain notions of superiority, race being one. So there is racism. And I would venture to say that it is still as incipient and rampant in the Cayman Islands as it ever has been, particularly where it comes for competition for certain types of employment. And not only is there racism, but in societies like the Cayman Islands, in my writings, I say we are a pigmentocracy, where we're segmented by shades of color. And what is obvious is that too often the people who are black are those people on the lower rungs of the ladder. And not enough of those people are in the middle and the upper levels. And of course, there are certain myths that are perpetrated by expatriates because they have to perpetrate these myths. Some expatriates, I may say, not all. And when I speak of expatriates now, I'm not talking of the peoples of the region, because I don't consider the peoples of the region expatriates. I identify them by nationality: Jamaicans, Hondurans, Nicaraguans, Cubans, Dominicans, Vincentians, and all. I'm talking about people from the metropolitan countries when I speak of expatriates. Europe, countries of Europe, Canada, the United States, the folks who consider themselves white. So certain things myths are perpetuated by them because they have to do so in order to maintain their positions of influence and superiority.
How can we fix that? And if we can't fix it, how can we improve on this level of racism?
Well, the one common denominator in an ideal society of fixing that would be education. But even Caymanians complain, even when they're educated, that the play field still isn't level, although we are given the impression that it should be. Then they say, we got our education, and I know this well from my years as president of the University College. They say, we got our education, but they tell us now we don't have the experience. And so although we have the degrees, we still don't get the job because they say, oh, you need 10 years experience. But how are we going to get the experience if you don't get the job in the first place? There are other ways it could be fixed too, and that is by a lot of joint venture programs between Caymanians and expatriates. Could fix it too by a lot of socialization, intermarrying, but that's an exclusivity because these people, you see, Ralph, my description of Caymanian society is that the only thing we have in common, the Caymanian people and the people from the region with the expatriate people, is that we meet up at the water fountain at work. At 5 o'clock in the evening, you go to your enclave, if you're an expatriate, your gated community in Crystal Harbor or some of these exotic subdivisions, and I go up to my subdivision in East End or Bodden Town or Savannah Acres or Savannah Heights or Savannah Gardens where the elite locals live, and then we don't meet again till Monday morning at 8 o'clock on the job. And so it's a very artificial society. You can't build a society on that kind of relationship. And the only how we came together as a community in any kind of totality with any kind of understanding and appreciation of one another is the tragedy that was Ivan. For a few weeks, we forgot all the differences, but now we've reverted back to our own ways, and it can't be. And if you read the Cayman Islands in transition, I say the only thing that holds this society together is the economy. And if the economy is frayed, we will see that we don't have a society. When you look around, you will find people of your income bracket and your color and no outside. You just have to look at what happens. You go to Kamana Bay. You want to see the society that the Cayman is, you go to Kamana Bay on the weekend and see who dominates the scene. It should be frightening.
So two things I would like to say. One is that we sort of lost opportunity in the pandemic when we were in a bubble. Maybe we could have used that opportunity to come together more. And the second thing, do you think that accepting at a later degree that we do have racism is part of trying to fix the problem? So if you don't accept that there is, no effort would be made.
But that's what I've been saying, of course. That's the elephant in the room. That's the elephant in the room. Yeah. And the quicker we come to accept that, the better it will be, the more honest we will be for ourselves, the greater incentive there will be for us to getting together and solving these problems. That's the elephant in the room, and I talk about that. You know, we've got to exorcise, I say, the old ghost, because racism is an old ghost that is haunting us. And until it is exorcised, not exorcised, exorcised, we won't become any better. And I see it every day. And you know, as a historian and a social scientist, it's plain to me when I go into certain offices who I see at the front and who's at the rear. Who is in a position of authority and who is the gopher. It's plain. And what worries me now is that even in the government administration, even in the civil service, certain things are becoming obvious. And there are Caymanians who are observant and who are sensitive and realize, this place is changing. in a way that is frightening to me as a Caymanian. The greatest opportunity for us to have righted the ship was when we had Vision 2008. Vision 2008 was the ideal opportunity for us to come together